All that in the next hour. With us for the duration, former Police Minister Nick Herbert. Welcome. According to some reports I've read, he left government not so long ago to spend more time on politics. Is that true?
No.
Well, what are you doing here?
I don't know, you asked me.
Yeah.
Oh, is that it? Right.
First mistake of the morning.
First of all today, let's talk about gay marriage, because the government is introducing its bill on the subject later today. We won't know exactly what's in it, though, until tomorrow, when it will be published. It will be called Marriage Same-Sex Couples Bill, and it's expected to get a bit of a stormy ride through Parliament. Nick Herbert, why is it so important to legislate for same-sex marriage?
Well, I think attitudes have changed in society towards gay people, and I think the introduction of civil partnerships was an incredibly important step forward that gave equality to a limited extent. It gave gay couples all the same rights, legal entitlements as married couples have, but it's not a marriage, and civil partnership is, I think, qualitatively different. And of course, those who are saying that they don't want to move to gay marriage understand that too. They too are saying that it's different. A majority of the public now are in favour of same-sex marriage, and I think if we are to fully complete that journey of equality so that gay people really are treated in the same way as others, that this is a very important final step.
Let's talk then about unity within the Conservative Party, because the bill is published tomorrow and arguably it could threaten to shatter the Conservative Parliamentary Party's newly found unity.
Well, I think that's putting it a bit strongly. These are issues of conscience and there will be a free vote, and I certainly think it's clear that most members of Parliament will vote for the bill, but that Conservative MPs will probably be divided roughly down the middle. I mean, we'll see. I hope that a majority of Conservative members of Parliament will vote for this legislation, and I hope that they'll be reassured by the protections that have been given to churches, because I think that's very important. I set up an organisation called Freedom to Marry, and the principle was that people should be allowed to get married, same-sex couples, if churches want to do that, and organisations like the Quakers agree.
But the Church of England won't
but
be
equally,
able to.
those church denominations that don't want to do this should have the freedom to say that that's not something that they agree with and should not be forced to conduct same-sex marriages. Those protections will be written into the legislation. They will be safe in terms of challenge from the European Court of Human Rights. That's what leading human rights lawyers have said. And I think that that will reassure a lot of my colleagues who are concerned to ensure that religious liberty is protected too.
Except it's not reassuring Philip Hammond, is it? I mean, he is reported today having expressed his concern in a letter to a constituent that actually the safeguards that you've described will not be robust enough to protect the church. So what are you going to say to him?
Well, I don't know at what point he wrote that letter, but the Attorney-General has been clear that he considers that there will not be a challenge to these safeguards that have been written in. Lord Pannick QC, who is the country's foremost human rights lawyer, said it was beyond argument. The protections are absolutely rock solid. The European Convention of Human Rights protects religious liberty specifically, and therefore we are sure that there won't be a challenge. Look at Spain.
Yes.
I mean, it's had same-sex marriage in Spain, Catholic country, for 7 years, actually.
But what about...
And there hasn't been a challenge there.
But what about the flip side? I mean, why wouldn't you support the idea of same-sex marriage in the Church of England? There were many people who thought that was going to be enshrined in this principle, that you would be able to get married in the Church of England.
Oh, well, if the Church of England collectively decided that that's what they wanted to do...
If individual churches want to do it, they can't.
Well, no, because they're part of an organisation that takes a collective view, and the Church is entitled to have its own view on these matters. I hope that one day they will change their mind, but that should be a decision for them, and, in my view, not for legislators to make, because that is fundamental to the principle of religious freedom. I think the Church is entitled to exercise its conscience, and it's for the Church to sort out its own position on it.
But it is dividing the Cabinet. I mean, Owen Paterson, David Jones have already made it clear they'll vote against. It is a free vote, you're quite right. But other Conservative MPs have claimed their postbags are full of letters from angry constituents. Is it really a priority?
Well, I myself believe that equality should always be a priority, and that if you say that something isn't a priority because we have a situation with the economy and so on, the danger is that you will never take a step like this. There will always be a reason not to do this. It's not something that need take up an enormous amount of time. But I think I go back to the point that I made before. Public opinion is in favour of this by quite a substantial majority, and it is strengthening. The Guardian ICM poll that was published at Christmas time showed that about 3/5 of the public are in favour of this. That was a considerable increase in the support that there was before. It's moving, by the way, across all Western countries as well. This is something that I think the majority of the public now believe we should do, but it's also something that we can reassure those who want to exercise their conscience that their own church can be protected.
Thank you.